For several hundred years, suspected witches were killed en masse. Even today, you can still see this behaviour if you travel to certain third world countries. But most believe the classical period of European and American witch hunts to be 1450 to 1750. 300 years of terror. The image of a witch has changed greatly over time. By the 15th century, a witch was the most feared and hated of all the folkloric beings, the personification of everything old Christian society rejected. They were believed to do the work of the devil. They would kill your livestock, place a curse on you, or even kidnap your children. Almost anything could send the population into a moral panic. If a baby dies during childbirth, the midwife would be accused of witchcraft. The whole village would capture the midwife and place her on trial. Even back then, the legal system required an admission of guilt in order to warrant execution, so the torture would begin. Terrifying torture methods were used to extract information. The torturer was usually forbidden to look into the eyes of the suspected witch, for fear that he may feel empathy for her. In England, suspected witches were thrown into rivers. If they floated, they would be condemned as a witch. If they sank and drowned, they would be proven innocent. This practice was known as dunking. Most have heard of the Salem witch trials, but there were many more notorious ones. The surprisingly named Bamberg trials took place in the German town of Bamberg from 1626 to 1631. As a result of these trials, not only were at least 300 people executed, but the judge was also executed for not being harsh enough, and the mayor of the town was also executed, for reasons I haven't been able to identify. I think they just didn't like him. But moving on. The Torsaka witch trials took place in 1675. 71 people were beheaded and then burned all in one day, making it the largest witch trial in Swedish history, which already sounds bad enough. What you have to remember is that they killed nearly 1/5 of all the women in the region. 300 years later, a memorial stone was placed on the site, which you can see here. Look, see, a memorial stone. Between 1450 and 1750, an estimated 40 to 100,000 suspected witches were executed. Witches were depicted in different ways depending on the century. More often than not, they were depicted as being burned or being held in stocks. I can't help but think this was a reflection of the historical climate. In Norse mythology, they were known as Volva. The word Volva roughly means someone who carries a magical staff. In Japanese folklore, witches were divided into two categories: those who employ foxes as minions, and those who employ snakes as minions. I would choose foxes over snakes. They're just more fun. In Pakistani culture, witches are fabled to have backwards-facing feet. To this day, there are still people who believe in witches. Some of them are Kuwaiti politicians who wish to make the practice of witchcraft illegal. This attitude makes me think of 17th century Scotland, a time when witches were accused of making potions, sinking ships, controlling the weather, and cursing whole cities. In the next episode of Fable 84, we will look at a terrifying urban legend